Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Melee Stats Deep Dive. For those of you who don't know, we have the Melee Stats podcast that we stream every Tuesday night, and we try to get into a lot of topics there. But for the sake of try to keep it a little shorter, so we made a second series where we can really go deep into the topics of Melee that we think are fun and need to be discussed. So this is it. We have me, Gimme Dat Wheat.
Me, Edwin Budding.
We didn't discuss this.
We did not discuss the order. I'm assuming the guest goes last.
Yes.
Guest does go last, and we're really teasing him. He's talking.
This is the part where you speak, Oven.
I already said oven.
Oh,
Okay,
just
good.
kidding.
Did you?
I think I was talked over.
Oh, sorry.
All right, and our special guest.
Pipsqueak, from Sweden, and that's basically it. Now, I do content creation. I've streamed for a while, and I uploaded a Fox versus Falco guide on YouTube, which got some traction. I'm fairly good in Europe, top 50.
Yeah, and we got a little bit to talk about with Europe. There's a lot of stuff going on recently. We have Valhalla, which just happened. It's the first European major of the year. And we got some interesting stuff to look at with that. Of course, the 100 comes out soon, so we'll be able to talk about European presence on that and talk about future of Europe with possible another air ranking and I guess just what we're looking for in the future with NTSC and other large
Changes.
Let's start with Valhalla.
Yeah, let's start with Valhalla. Valhalla was the first super major of 2019 in Europe, or super major is the wrong word. It's just a regular major.
That's okay.
Man, making us North Americans laugh.
Yeah, I just realized, I'm like, fuck.
No, it's perfect. Go on.
Yeah, it was pretty good. King Funk has a knack for advertising. So basically every single day, every single Discord, every Facebook site, and even his Twitter, it's like every day there's a new update, and you keep getting spammed so much that the entirety of Europe, like 4 months before the tournament, we all know it's happening. Early birds aren't even out yet, and everyone's aware. We got like, I think, 385 attendees overall, split over Ultimate and Melee. 209 attendance in Melee. It was a really good tournament, well run. I think doubles went a little late, but everything else felt like it was on time. I didn't particularly note any bad management stuff, and the actual brackets were super interesting. Like, we had some really interesting results. Mo beat Professor Pro.
A lot of really wacky things going on. Yeah, Mo a DK. Where is he from again?
He's from Denmark.
Yeah, he's from Denmark, and he has consistently had the best out of region results in Denmark. Which is really funny because of DK. He's beaten. I don't know. Did he? I think it either took him to last stock last game or beat Solar, which was the third best Fox in Sweden. I forget about Armada. Armada doesn't count. He's a peach in my mind.
Oh, Armada doesn't count for a lot of reasons now.
Nah, that's true. But yeah, it was really fun because we had a special event before Melee Singles, like 2 days before, 1 day before, called the Battle of the Boroughs, which is like a 3v3 city-based tournament. So it's a crew battle for every city, and Mo actually beat Professor Pro in their crew battle versus the English crew. They both went in first, and Mo beat him then. And everyone on the actual match they played in bracket or pools, or I think it was pools, right? Yeah.
No, it was
they everyone was like, "Oh, this is gonna be the revenge for Professor Pro. He's gonna beat him, avenge the shame in the crew battle." And look how that turned out.
So there's something funny I want to mention the Professor Pro, not to make fun of him for too much. But earlier in 2018, when he played Leffen's Mewtwo, I remember me and a few other Melee Stats people were like, "Oh, Professor Pro's not going to lose this matchup." Like he literally, like when he used to play PM, like he's good at PM matchups. He's not going to lose this. Then he lost to Leffens Mewtwo.
I don't know.
It's not the same at all.
I felt pretty confident that he could lose it.
And then now he's losing to a DK. Maybe he's got a
Oh, come on. Don't give him that.
It's not even remotely the same. They play so differently from PEM to Melee.
No, you're right. I'm just making a joke.
But they're worse, so I mean, it kind of balances out, doesn't it? My favorite part about the tournament where he lost to the Mewtwo was that at the same tournament, the Norway's best at the time player, Sork, also played against the Mewtwo. And I remember distinctly tuning into the stream, and I tuned into that match. I was at the tournament, but I was at somewhere else, like going to eat or something. And the first thing I see is Leffen camping on the side of the stage, waiting for a power shield on laser. He power shields the laser, wave dashes forward, gets a grab at 0%, zero to deaths him, and I'm like, this is unfair. This looks undoable for Falco. What is this? It's actually hilarious how he gets like a true combo grab and then zero to deaths him on FD. I'm like, oh, this is just Marth.
Yeah, Marth on one stage. The Marth stage. It's not actually Marth.
Like a FD. Doesn't he have a dumb tech trap on like Spaceys with down tilt?
Mewtwo.
Once. Yeah. Like I might be wrong about this, but like can't he down tilt and then like make them tech, but like he can just still down tilt or something like that?
Yeah. I'm fairly sure he can.
Yeah, like I think he can link 2 in a row. And then intentionally miss, so that they can't tech. Like I believe that's the case. I could be wrong. Who cares? By the way, I don't. Yeah, I hope no one knows that information.
I think I've heard
no one is well versed in
Mewtwo
enough where they actually know that.
I do want to note that Mo versus Professor Pro was actually in bracket. It was winners round 2.
That's wild.
Yeah, because it was best of 3. So I thought it was pools, but you're right.
Yeah.
God damn it.
And right before that, Mo beat Tomber.
So. Tomber Tomber is ranked number 1 in Denmark, or was. I'm not entirely sure who he is now. And he's an ice climber. He's
been around for a while.
It's like 12 years or something.
Yeah.
He's known as the like best wobbler in that he has like a really optimal way to wobble that works at 0% if he does it perfectly. So everyone's like, oh, well, don't get hit by him ever. You can't escape it. He hasn't really been very active for the past couple of years, and he especially hasn't traveled much at all. He's only been competing in Denmark. So he has really good in country results, but not outside of it. It's also really interesting. I want to mention this early. Mo was in the DK Discord and found an anti-ice climber tech. And before this, he thought the matchup was 70-30 to ice climbers, like really, really difficult for DK. And then he realized you can kill Nana at 0%, guaranteed, really easily. And he's like, oh, I guess it's just like 60-40. And he ended up beating like 3 ice climbers. He beat 1 in bracket, 1 in pools, and 1 in crew battle, or 2 in crew battles. And basically, the cargo throw is an infinite if you don't mash. You never get out of it if you don't mash. And down throw instantly kills Nana at 0% from the ledge.
Wow.
She goes slightly too far to jump back, so he doesn't even have to hit her again. So basically, he hits Popo in the opposite direction at 20 or 30%, then he just walks the other side of the stage and then throws her off, and then continues hitting Popo. It's like, okay. And he got there like 3 or 4 times.
That's beautiful. I got an
idea.
Out
to a U.S. major, I can guarantee him that he might get seeded against like a drunk sloth or something. If he wants to do that, I'm more than happy to oblige.
Yeah, I think he still wants to travel. He has hand pains, so he hasn't played as much recently. And it's sad because his main is Donkey Kong, which is actually a pretty technical character if you want to play him right. And his secondary is Fox. So, I mean, he kind of didn't pick the best for his situation.
All right.
I do want to mention the guy he ended up losing to, who who ended up having like one of the really impressive runs of the tournament. Maxi, a Irish Jigglypuff player. So I first heard of Maxi last year when he beat S2J at a local, and it's a local tournament. So and based on like the other people I knew who were following, S2J was pretty drunk like when he dropped the set. But I remember hearing a lot of sort of commotion around Maxi as this rising European Jigglypuff. And then at this tournament, he kind of I think he was really like one of the breakout stars in here, getting second place in a pretty, there's no left in our Armada, but it's still a pretty competitive European field. So have you, what are your thoughts on him, Pipsqueak? I want to hear your sort of perspective.
I think Maxi for over a year has been probably the best puff or slightly behind Tech in skill.
Wow.
He's been top 10 in the UK for over a year, probably 2 now. He started playing like 3-4 years ago, maybe even less than that. And he basically did nothing for a long time, wasn't really notable in any way, at least from an outside perspective. And then suddenly he beat everyone in the UK. He got a win against literally everyone on the PR. I'm like, what? Like it felt like 1 month or something, and he beat all of the top 10, and then suddenly he's like 6th place or something. I'm like, what? Who is this? Oh, it's a Jigglypuff. No, but he's done really well for himself at Air 5. There's something called the contract, which was like a sponsor deal kind of thing. You have 16 people or 8 people. Don't remember. I think it was 8 people. 8 people get voted in, and then there's a single elimination bracket where the winner gets like free tournaments for free, flights and everything, and just like a small sponsorship basically from Air. And he won that tournament. So I think that's why he traveled to Valhalla. I don't know exactly what happened now that Air is shut down, but he performed very well in the actual bracket, won the contract, and since then he's always done well in the country. So it's not surprising at all. It's not surprising at all that he got 2nd place. I say when I expected him to get like 7th or something.
One of the things I wanted to... Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's definitely a bigger leap between like... he's probably in that up-and-coming talent that I would lump someone like Nikki or Timmy into.
Yes.
But still, to see him get 2nd at this is like still amazing. It was really impressive to me. I don't want to say amazing for a puff player getting 2nd. They shouldn't make top 8. But it was very impressive for me because I definitely see him as like a kind of a different, someone like a AMSA or an Over Triforce or Professor Pro or something like that, kind of the older, more established names. But I guess really right now we can't separate the tier of up-and-comers versus the tier of older players so much.
It's definitely become a much smaller leap now than before. There's still like, I want to say that Triff, for example, he's not even in the old school established tier anymore. He's like a tier alone at this point. You can upset Professor Pro, you can upset AMSA, you can upset... He's at Ice's tier, slightly above Ice. And you can't really upset Ice in nearly the same way. But overall, people like Over Triforce has been losing to more and more up-and-comers in Europe. And Professor Pro too, losing to more people. VA also lose to more people. So I want to say, like, generally everyone that was considered the easy top 10 now has to work for the wins way harder. Another player, Tech, at Air, he lost to Kasse, which is a German sheik. And it's just like everyone keeps losing to new players now. And I find it really interesting that the new are kind of like catching up to the old school. In this tournament...
Yeah, go on.
In this tournament, Maxi beat both Over Triforce and AMSA, which I find really impressive. Those are like... Even though the matchup is rough in PAL, it's still like AMSA is amazing, Over Triforce is amazing. They're different playstyles too, so it's not like, oh, he's really good against one playstyle. He's that good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it kind of reminds me, like maybe obviously on a smaller scale, but it reminds me of sort of when the 11 to 25 tier in sort of North American Melee got a lot wider because all the new players started going up and sort of clawing their way up. I feel like that third tier of Europe, like I think Ice and Triff are probably still a little like more safe, quote unquote, than the other ones, but like that tier 3.5 or so, like everything below is kind of a lot more open. Like last year, I remember, I can't say for his competitive future, but last year I remember Sechi was one of the players who really impressed me. Not just because he was making a content on YouTube, but because he was backing it up with strong results. The UK in general, I think, just like as a region, got a lot stronger. Professor Pro for the longest time would just kind of like clean up his locals. Maybe back when Fuzzy was active, Fuzzy would sometimes take sets off of him, but like the guys under him now, not just VA, but like Maxi, Sechi, Frenzy, like Mint, I think is another really good name. Like UK is becoming a lot stronger of a region. And
it is
2019. Maxi, I guess, kind of leading the charge. One last thing on Maxi, I want to ask you, Pip, is you mentioned Tech before, and like the thing I remember Tech like about his playstyle more is that he's it sounds really simple to say, but Tech had all these like crazy traps and all these crazy rest setups. Like I distinctly remember his set against Duck at DreamHack Winter 2015, where
I watched that a month ago.
Yeah, where you rested Duck like 7, and Duck was so angry at the end of it. How do you think Maxi sort of like, what do you think he kind of brings to it that you would notice?
So I'll preface what I'm saying with the fact that I've basically secondaried Puff for a long time. I don't really pull her out in tournament. I don't think she's super fun, but I think she's really interesting, and I've kind of like labbed her a bit.
I like your reaction tech chase with the rest on platform.
It takes 5 minutes to get to that level, 95% consistently.
I didn't believe you when you did it, and I started doing. I like practiced it just out of curiosity, and I thought to myself, "Oh my god, like
it's so free." Basically, Maxi doesn't really go for any of the more outlandish rests. Tech has all of these amazing setups that really feel like they break the game. There's one really famous clip of him versus Over Triforce in a really close set, where Over Triforce, I think, fares him into the side of the stage, and he takes the side, jumps, and rests him before he lands. And that was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. And the best part is he even makes sure to land like at the lip of the stage so he doesn't die. But Maxi doesn't really go for any of the creative, amazing rests. What he does do is he has every single like optimal rest setup. He does the tech chase rest from not only like up throw, but from like up bear, up smash, up tilt. Bears sometimes if they land on a platform, he can go for it. It's like you do not escape him in the situations he does know when he does know how to get a rest. Mostly they are very different play styles in outside of rest too. Tech, he always says on Twitter and everywhere I watch, he's like, "Oh, Puff should never approach, don't do it." I keep getting reminded that don't approach, he said after he lost to Cass at Air. But I still think he's like the most aggressive Puff in Europe, which is really funny. Maxi, he's kind of frustrating to look at, I'm gonna say. He plays against Frenzy a lot, and he played against Sork at the contract, and he can't like sit at a side platform for 3 minutes. And the Falco keeps lasering, and like he's sitting there, "Oh, fuck it. Just give me a rest, man. I'm at 180%. What you gonna do?" There's one clip of him on Dreamland at like 220%, just getting soft hit over and over and over and over again. No. And he has like 2-stock lead or something, and just keeps milking that. And that's what makes him so scary, because you don't get the free kills versus him. Well, take him like, oh, he's gonna miss a rest, he's gonna miss a commitment and die.
All right, for the last, do we have anything else to say about Air? I was gonna say the last.
You mean Valhalla?
Oh,
yeah.
No, I messed up. Valhalla 2. Do we want to talk about Nintendo versus Nebby?
Oh,
yeah, that's a little bit of an upset.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I had to look up who Nintendo was after the tournament happened because I didn't recognize him.
Just I'll picture your face.
My God.
You're a dork who plays Nintendo.
Yeah. It's like an elementary school joke.
You're an elementary school joke. What are you gonna do about it?
Nintendo beating Nevi, yeah, that's kind of weird. Also, that matchup, Icy's Yoshi, like,
it's not easy.
Yeah.
Yoshi kind of sucks for Icy.
That's what I meant. Like, it's a strange. I would never expect a Icy's.
Like, I'm sure both sides really like don't have nice things to say about it. I don't know how this would change in PAL. I know that in NTSC. I don't think a lot of people are going to say it's Yoshi favored, but it's definitely one of the matchups that is Yoshi has a lot of stuff that he can do against Icy's, to the point where it's an incredible record versus like almost every Icy player.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I've avoided watching those sets.
Kid Boogie is the only one who's beaten him out of all the top Icy players.
Yeah, he beat him in I think he beat him in like one local, but Amsa still
Yeah, you're correct. Go on. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, he beat him in one local, but I'm fairly sure Amsa like destroyed him in the run back and like is lifetime positive on him. Like Amsa defeated Fly Manito when they played. He like defeated Chudat also. Every time I've seen it at that top level, like I can't say for someone like Nintendo or like a borderline top 100 case like Nebi, but definitely at the top level, it's always like really frustrating for Icy's more than Yoshi. I don't know.
Well, how should I preface this? Nintendo is a pretty simplistic Icy's, good at everything basic, while Nebi, he doesn't really play the optimal Yoshi. He kind of like does what he thinks is cool, which makes him a great viewing pleasure, but maybe not the best versus Icy's. He's even told me when we were practicing before the set that he doesn't go for certain kills he knows are optimal because they don't have the satisfying like sound and impact, so he doesn't register them as kills. So like he knows that edge guarding with soft hit nair at 180% to get a kill is the best way to do it, but it doesn't feel like a kill. He needs that F smash, you know. So
during his set, oh sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say the one I didn't watch the set, so I don't know exactly how it went. Which is kind of fun that you guys know more than me about it. But Nintendo walked up to me afterwards and said, in a very, very concise manner, exactly how he beat him. He said, "Oh, Nebi just like F smashed, and then he spot dodged, and he spot dodged every time. So I just like wave dash forward, waited, and grabbed him and wobbled. Then I won."
Nebi,
no, Nebi, come on. I mean, great for Nintendo, but that's a heartbreaking way to lose.
Yeah,
something preventable.
When the other Yoshis heard this, they were like, "I thought Nebi knew the matchup." What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, speaking of his like need to end it in a satisfying way, I remember during his set versus Frenzy, he was just like Frenzy's on his Frenzy's last stock while Nebi was maybe up like 2 stocks or something, and it was so obvious that he was looking for a down B. Like he just kept up airing it. He's like, "Well, can I down B now? Can I down?" It was like the most obvious thing. Yeah, and then he down beat and missed it.
That's also just like him. Yeah, he's a viewing pleasure.
I actually don't know off the top of my head how Nebi did in losers. I don't think he did
pretty
particularly
well.
He beat
He
beat Mo, he beat Humpe, he beat Sharon, and then he lost to Frenzy.
So interesting here. No, it's not. Humpe is he's.
How good is Humpe right now? I've like sort of seen like bits and spurts of his play, but I don't know how like practiced he is.
I want to say easy top 30 in Europe. He's sort of. What's a comparison you would know? That's the hard part.
Is Humpe like a Big Joy type or like a Beerman level right now?
oh gosh, I don't know him well enough to say. He's solid. He's solid as well. Hell, he's played for like 9 years, I think, maybe more than that.
It's quite old school,
And
right?
yeah, and he has all the tricks in the book. His biggest flaw, I would say, is he can get a bit impatient and salty. So like he's in the same region, or was in the same region as Johnny Fight, the ice climber.
Yeah,
and he got
yeah,
so
Johnny
salty
Fight.
all the time when he go like.
Oh,
wobbled
I've
in.
seen those sets. Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Like refreshes. I've definitely seen many clips of Johnny Fight in home base sets.
My favorite is this one
Yeah.
set where he kills, I think Yonified or someone else. It might be like another Falco there called Nils. I don't know which set I'm remembering, but he kills him. They're both at last stock 0%. It's Yoshi's. And he dash dances from like middle of the stage. The guy falls down from the platform and he immediately does like a momentum backwards laser, the retreating laser. Off stage and instantly dies.
Oh,
at 0%. And that ends the set, and it's so funny. Everyone in the building explodes like, "No, Humpe, why?" Oh, it's so funny. He can be the most anticlimactic player in the universe. Just he has so many SDs under his belt, but he's also got like all the tricks. One thing he loves to do is like he spot dodges all the aerials and then shines you afterwards. So it's really frustrating to play against if you're not used to it. And he also like can slow down and it's like, I don't need to do shit. You play the rest of the game sometimes. So yeah, he's good. I would say Nebby has like 55% chance of beating him or something. So I'm not too surprised he did. But they're not too far away in skill either.
All right. Any other last things about Valhalla?
What about this guy? What about this guy over here? How
did I do?
I know how you did, but like, any takeaways or any sort of like things you have about like any goals that you want to talk about briefly?
It's difficult for me because I recently moved, like I think 4 months ago, and the place I moved to, I didn't want to move here. I was moved here basically against my will, sorta. The place has no internet, or I've mentioned that I have like 1,000 ping sometimes on Discord, which means net play, streaming, training. It's all impossible. I can't play any online game whatsoever. So the past 4 months, I basically hadn't had a chance to practice because tournaments have also stopped being a thing because the locale we had basically shut down during December and November. So I came into this super unpracticed, had like a couple days before, and I even made a post like, oh, I expect to underperform so hard. If I get mad, I don't know. I was just yawning preemptively, you know. I did pretty well, though. I'm not too sad with how it went. It's basically... I kind of got a new perspective. I've never had to play Melee rusty. I've always played Melee super red hot. Like, always practicing, always doing stuff, never having more than like a week off from Melee. And now with multiple months, I feel like, oh, I can't touch the game in the same way. So in some ways, that's actually super useful because you realize, oh, all of these optimal setups, all of this tech chasing, all of this zero to death stuff you do from a grab, which makes you hone in on that grab, you can't do that anymore. So you have to become better in neutral. So I feel like I played better in neutral than I've ever done in my life. But I couldn't really convert. So it was like bittersweet. I lost to Priscent, who's
pretty good Jigglypuff.
No.
Nope.
No.
Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I had him confused with someone else. My bad. I literally brain farted. My bad.
Prison took ice to last hit in
I was thinking of Maxi for a second.
Wow.
My bad. I literally brain farted. I know Prison
no
is. I know who Prison is. I literally was just thinking of Maxi.
Yeah, sure. That's
I'm
what
gonna
someone who
link
doesn't know
this
who Prison is would say.
Because Pip, you were talking about practicing with grinding with Puff before, so it's naturally Jigglypuff.
Oh, so you think I lost in the Puff though?
No.
Wow, that's so rude.
I was just thinking.
My Puff is the best.
Same.
No,
your true feelings come out. Everyone just plays Puff up there. They're all the same person.
Exactly. No, Present, he took Ice to stock last hit at a Red Bull tournament like a while ago. Yeah, Red Bull E weekend. And he's
had a crazy set with Nikki at
yeah,
that was the last air, right? That was incredible. That was to make top 8, I believe.
That was so funny. Oh my god.
That was one of the
best
more
part
memorable
is,
sets from EU Melee in my mind, of what
he
I saw,
gets
of
he
course.
gets memed so hard. He gets memed so hard. Oh, back for a shine, eh? Back for a shine. Best part is, during our set at Valhalla, we played on Yoshi's, and I got a back throw at the exact spot, and he jumped out of his chair like, like oh, no, it's not happening. And I considered going for the back throw shine, but I'm like, nah, he's gonna jump out of it this time. He's so ready, and the crowd, they go like, oh. So yeah, it's definitely been one of the more memorable sets. I think he's the at this point, with Armada retiring, I guess he's the third best Fox in Europe because he's right under Ice. It's okay. The results don't reflect this, but I think he's better than both me and Nikki. He's
also very young, correct?
Yes, he is. He's 18,
like 16.
He's barely 18, or no, he's 18. Yeah, he's just barely 18.
Wait, who are the three Fox? Who are the two Foxes better than Leffen, Ice, Prof?
Prof. Yeah, Prof.
I was gonna say,
but he lost to DK. Can't be better. Automatically
the thing is, I'm gonna be honest. Present, when he plays well, he scares me in much the same way Leffen does. Prof never really scares me that way. When Present plays on point, I feel like, oh, he touches me once and I die every single time. And he also plays so that you can't really brief, while Prof is like, oh, I'll dash dance in interesting, unique ways and waveland off the platforms and tomahawk grab you. And Present's like, nah, I'm just gonna do a dare, and I'm gonna do another dare, and I'm gonna do a perfectly spaced dare, and you're gonna get dare grabbed, and you're gonna hate your life and die. So in my mind, he's better, even though the results don't reflect it at all. So
Winners semis set of Present versus Maxi. Present looks so good.
Yeah.
That's a different Present. But player that, if any Melee person already doesn't have him on his radar, he's very good. He's up and coming. He's one of those players where I wouldn't be surprised if by next year's top 100 we see him on there.
Well, here's the thing. We've discussed this a bit in Europe. It's basically impossible to get top 100 in Europe.
No, going to America.
You have to go to America, and I don't think he's had monetary problems. He got a sponsor for like a week. He got like a good sponsor, good graphics made, like Norway new esports team, done like stuff in other esports, and everyone's like, fuck yeah, Present can go and travel now. He can do stuff. This is so great. And like 2 weeks later, he doesn't have the banner anymore, and the sponsor team drops out of Melee as soon as they went in.
No.
And like the graphic is gone. I'm like, what happened? You were to show someone. So now he's still like, he can't really travel that much. I think he got floored out. Is that what you say? Like flights paid for by King Fang to get to Valhalla. He lives in a really remote region too. So getting the number of tournaments, the results needed, he would kind of like require a 1 month trip to the US or something, attend 2 majors there, and then go back to Europe, attend another major here, and then he can get in top 100. But skill-wise, I definitely think he's top 100.
All right.
Yeah, it's a shame to go to multiple EU majors to be eligible. I just don't know right now if Europe has the majors that it used to have in the past, where a panelist would see his results and like feel like they have enough of a grasp of him. Like even if he were to go to enough where he gets put on the ballot, it's one of those things where like I don't know if a panelist would look at all this data.
Yeah, even if he gets like first, it's like
I mean, if he gets first, if he goes
say Leffen doesn't attend, say Ice doesn't attend. Okay, 3 people doesn't attend. Triff, Ice, Leffen. assume that, then it's like, oh, he'll get 70th, something like that, even if he places first dominantly. Like he won't place in the top echelon of 100 or top 50, no matter how well he does in Europe, which I find kind of interesting. But that's why you go to the US and prove it there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen a lot of like this. Obviously, this doesn't mean that they're top 100, but we have seen European players come to the US, and like they're not the ones that succeed or that take big names aren't always the people that like we're necessarily looking out for. I remember when he came to when Glory just randomly took a set off like Nunn, and then he took another set off Spud. Like it just caught me completely off guard because I'd heard of him before, but in my mind I just kind of internalized him as beneath like Timmy. You know, before he came to the US, I wouldn't even have thought of Glory before like Aries, right? And then just for Glory to come just sort of, if you weren't from EU and if you weren't from Austria, you probably hadn't heard of him before. So there is a lot of talent. I just think I think it's really difficult just kind of assessing their place in comparison to the rest of the international scene. And obviously, like it's kind of silly of me not to say that the scene as is right now is very like America centric, just because we have a more like wealth of data and we just have a huge player pool. So like
everything is based in the US.
Yeah,
that's not like a lie in any way. It's just that's the way it is. I think. Okay, thought experiment. If every single European top 50 player moved to the US for a year, I think like 20 of them could come top 100, no problem. I don't think that's super difficult if they play like as many tournaments as everyone else. A ton of people here are kept down by like the matchup inexperience, like low bad practice and stuff like that. But give them like a year in the US, and even their skill now, the top 20 in Europe, I think are like top 100 material. But that's probably not going to happen. Let's be real.
I think they would. I think to like what you're saying, I think they would be in that skill range of being able to contend with top 100 players and like beating. Like if Glory came over again and he beat someone like Smash Daddy, I'm not like, oh my God, that's crazy. You know, like I think like that's pretty expected as a possibility for him. And I could see a lot of Europe succeeding in individual set wins and being competitive with those players. But the thing is like actually finishing top 100 in terms of like how you're expected to place is an entirely different beast. Like
definitely.
Like that, just as you could say that given the same opportunities, a lot of Europe's third, fourth, or even fifth tier could potentially be top 100. I think like people from Mexico might say the same thing about like not just Bimbo Mexico, who was a nominee this year, but someone like JPEG or like around that level, like even Javi, like Twin. Like there's so much talent internationally, and like because 100 is such like a relatively small number, I'm very reluctant to say whether like someone from EU, given as many opportunities, would for sure make top 100. But I think definitely they would fit in that skill range, if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. But like I'm thinking Sechi, for example, Nikki.
I think I think Sechi wasn't on the nominee list, but he would have made my top 100 if he was.
Edwin, I felt kind of similar to how you did, and then I started thinking about it in my head, and I feel like you get the top tier players who are already top 100 from Europe, and then you add on people Sechi, Timmy, Nikki, Present, Mint.
Glory.
You had like all these people who I would not be surprised if someone like them were to make a top 100. Compare someone like Mint and his skill level to someone who would end up like in the, which is I guess like I don't know, like
Forest.
Like for example, Mint has always taken Professor Pro close, and he's always been considered like just a small step below Professor Pro for the longest time. And he's still like Professor Pro, I think, is top 40, top 30 something, and he's not in contention even like.
Prof will probably end up in the 50s this year, even though he has like good wins.
Yeah,
like I think his consistency is probably like lower 50s, maybe late 40s.
Edwin, you gonna tell me that someone in contention for 90s like Cobb.
Don't do it.
Much better is Cobb than Maxi. Nikki, Timmy,
Cobb Maxi might be interesting because the Midwest tends to kind of do like weirdly well in those like float. But
I'm not saying how would they do against each other. I'm saying
I see what you're saying though. I think that's a fair point to bring up because a lot of it is opportunity based, and it does kind of suck that it's something that we don't really have.
Into a good discussion with the top 100 coming out in the next month, and actually in the next 2 weeks. We'll be seeing if any Europeans make the list there. What do we think about the Europeans' chances on the top 100, and where do we think that they'll kind of end up?
I don't
know if you guys want to go through it like player
Armada
by player.
and Leffen will be top 3.
No, Armada won't even play top 100. Armada's not playing Sync top 100. Europe is dead. No, I don't think very many Europeans are going to make it this year. I think like only Triff, Ice, Leffen really have like a guarantee. Prof
really
over
Amsa,
Prof.
Wow.
Yeah, those have a guarantee too. But after that, I'm like.
After that, you kind of get to the weird tier. Nebby, what do you think about Nebby?
Nebby barely made my ballot. I think
Nebby has a weird year where, like, he didn't necessarily. I think last year people were assuming that he was going to break out, and I don't know if this necessarily was his breakout year that some people thought it was. But also,
he's been very consistent for a long time.
Yeah, there's such a thing in the lower level of the top 100 where it just helps you so much if you're well known.
Yes,
agreed.
Do you think that, like, the fact that he is like such a fun player to watch, that I think that does help him?
It also probably does. I think he'll get in. I think it's like he's the cutoff, honestly. If Setchi got like another win in the US or like another tournament in the US, I think he'd get in too.
I'm pretty sure like all of Melee Stats was confident that Setchi would be somewhere in like the 80s-ish range if he was to actually be active enough to be on the ballot.
Yeah, he's been in a bit of a weird spot. He retired for...
Yeah,
he retired when school, like he moved to university or something, and it became way harder. He got less time, and he's like, I'm not investing into Melee. I'm retiring. And then he kept going to tournaments. He beat Triff twice after retiring.
That was Mercked, right?
Yeah, and then he unretired like a week ago or something. But I still love how he memed around on Twitter like, a fucking retired player beats Europe's third best. We're such a dead region. You're right. I think Neb is the cutoff point. I don't think anyone under is. Maybe Nikki, but I don't think so.
You know who I think got really hurt by coming back to the US? When Frenzy came back to the US and got spanked by Daki and like didn't really have a good return. You know, Frenzy had a really good Smash Con. Kind of like he beat Drunk Sloth. It didn't really I don't want to say he lucked out, but he got a very fortunate bracket to 9th. And then when he came back to the US, it was just
he memed about that so much. We kept comparing him to like top 18, top 16 players at SmashCon, and we were like, "Oh my god, Frenzy, you're so much better than all of these players. You're so much better." And he's like, "No, I'm not. I just had a good bracket." He's a very humble guy, but everyone else is like, "We love to play up all our results in the US, of course." Even if they aren't backed up by any wins. So that was a ton of fun. Which reminds me, we talked about Glory earlier. Glory, for me, you said he surprised you. He surprised me. Like I met him first at Awakening last year, and I hadn't heard of him at all. And then he's like better than everyone else I've have as like, these are the targets that I have to beat. And he like I've seen him on the air ranking slightly before that tournament, and he got like 41st or something. And 41st at air, that's like, 41st at air ranking. I'm like, oh, good, but not necessarily the ones I'm targeting. And then he beats all of these players in the US too. And I don't even know if I want to say he's become better. I honestly think that a year ago he was already this good and no one knew about him.
Sick.
He was just like, oh, I'm second in Austria and I don't travel. It's like something like that. So I find it really cool for all these hidden bosses to just get out and do amazing. We were going to talk about the NTSC switch in Europe, right?
Yeah.
I think we can move on from the rankings. If we said what we want to say.
Yeah, so you gave us a little sneak peek of sort of your thoughts as an active competitor in Europe. So if you want to just kind of like go through that from the start, like explain your perspective.
Yeah. I'm a very pro NTSC player. I've been to the US once for way shorter than I wanted to, but just during those few days of intense tournament, I realized I think NTSC is a much more fun environment, and it has a. I don't want to say it has a higher skill ceiling or that it's better balanced, but it's just a more fun version in my opinion. All of the characters I play are more interesting. So just on like an egoistical level, I enjoy it more. But even then, the arguments that are going back and forth in Europe right now are kind of like the NTSC people are like, okay, everyone in the world plays NTSC except Europe. Even like Australia, I think.
Australia moved.
Yes.
Australia
switched to NTSC. Yeah, both of them switched to NTSC. And now, as soon as that happened, we were like, that's when we started considering it. We're like, okay, NTSC is a possibility. We have memory cards for it. There's no longer any, I can't even pronounce the word, logistical issues?
Logistical, yeah.
Yeah. So now it's being discussed again. Interesting to note, the two biggest TOs in Europe, the Air TO, Ed, and the Awakening TO, Technic, they've kind of been the ones carrying the torch the last year, I want to say. King Funk too, but they've been very anti-NTSC. They don't really support it at all. While King Funk is kind of like neutral, he'll do what the majority wants to do. So we have sort of a split in Europe right now, with a ton of people wanting NTSC and a ton of people wanting PAL. Some threatening to leave if we switch to NTSC, which is one of the arguments for staying, that, oh, these people are going to leave the scene, they're alienated, while the other side is more like, oh, well, we're never going to be relevant if we play PAL. There's every resource is an NTSC. So we have to convert all the knowledge to PAL, and everything we find online is wrong. And when we go to the US, we have to like take a week and trying to get used to NTSC. And then we go to the US and we still don't know all the combos. We still don't know all the intricacies, and we play worse than we should. And above that, another thing that's also said is that every new player, even in Europe, starts with NTSC, because when you play online, you play NTSC first. Everyone's like, download NTSC. And because of that, like, there's no longer any nostalgia with like, oh, I grew up with PAL, or PAL is the default anymore. I kind of think that NTSC and PAL are kind of like 50-50 in new players. Some people remember PAL as a kid, but no one was serious as a kid. And those that get into the scene now, they probably do it online. And online, you learn about NTSC first. So I'm very pro NTSC. There's a ton of people who are very pro PAL, mostly, notably, floaty players. The recent developments have been very interesting, like just the past 2 weeks, I want to say, 2 or 3 weeks. We've had Frenzy is a TO, and he's hosting NTSC tournaments in the UK now.
That's Spiked? Is that the
yes.
tournament? Okay, yeah, I remember him talking about that.
He's gonna continue hosting more. Short Hop Pier, which is another tournament in the UK, it's also doing NTSC. the entirety of the Netherlands scene is doing a trial period of NTSC all the way from now to March.
Is it from now? It says starts January 27th.
Oh, that's basically now. No, but yeah. So really, we have a ton of people trying it out, seeing what it leads to, and I myself kind of want to see the switch in Sweden too, but I don't really think there's as big of a movement here as in the other countries. Generally, I'm just a bit selfish there. I don't have too much of a stake in it. I don't really care too much, but it has split the community, to say the least.
Yeah, I do think. Oh, yeah. Also today, Armada said that he thinks NTSC is the way to go if Europe wants to compete on a global scale.
Yes.
For as much as the ultimate player opinion is worth.
Oh, so like you briefly touched upon the like the split and sort of why people want to go into PAL. Are the main arguments basically just like tradition in the sense of like European Melee identity separate, or like I've never quite like.
Okay, yes, it's not quite that overt. I think that's a big part of it, but generally the biggest argument is that we're playing the newest version, we're playing the intended version, and the US should switch to our version because we have the superior version, the more balanced one, the later one. And there's a ton of people who focus a lot on that. And then that's the main argument. And the secondary argument is that we're alienating a lot of players that expect the buffs in NTSC. I mean, in PAL, like Yoshi players, low tier players in general. Oh, Sheik invalidates every low tier in NTSC. We can't be alienating every single low tier player. Which characters are interesting in that regard?
Ganondorf.
Ganondorf is one.
He does get buffed a little bit as well in NTSC.
Yeah. It's funny. Some people consider the weaker forwarder actually a buff in PAL because you can combo it. You can do like forwarder at some percents. DK, Mo probably wouldn't be as relevant, I guess, in NTSC, even though he's like, I don't think he has a strong opinion when I last talked to him. Puff players, they don't want it. I say that, but I don't think Maxi is too against NTSC either. Like, generally, the top players in Europe want NTSC because we want to compete with the US and we want to be primed for that condition, that landscape. But the lower ranked players don't really want NTSC at all. And I think Armada actually touched upon that in the GIF or the clip where he says that it doesn't really matter for lower ranked players which version we play, because if your character is, say, 5% worse and you're not even close to a top 50 Euro player or top 100 world player, do you really think that is going to change if your character is 5% worse or gets one more bad matchup? And that's kind of my take on it too.
All right. Last things before we go. Europe in 2019. We touched on that.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We're in a unique position now with all of the experimentation going into NTSC. That's going to make it interesting. Air shut down permanently now. Like they shut down their Twitter. The main TO has had a family for a long time now, a kid to support. So he basically said, I'm not touching anything Melee related ever again. So we're kind of lacking a big major now because Beast is shut down, Air is shut down. What we do have is we have Phoenix Blue, which is a new Swedish big tournament. I think we're aiming for 200 people this time around, minimum. I think we're going to get a bit higher than that. We're like 150 something now. And it's in February around like the 20th or something. So over a month left. There's Awakening, which has finally been confirmed to happen again. That was a really big tournament, the second largest after Air, I want to say, in the past few years. and that's going to be bigger and better than ever.
Correct. Where was Awakening again?
That's in Germany. It was in Munich last year. I don't know exactly where it's going to be this time, but probably somewhere in Germany. So we lack a third bigger and better super major, super big Europe tournament that everyone goes to. I don't think we're going to get anyone to fill those shoes in 2019, or I don't expect it. I hope that happens, but I can't expect it now with the level of engagement with Ultimate coming out. So the actual interest in Melee is kind of like on the back burner as a lot of people are exploring that game. And if we get a big tournament, I think it's going to be based in either Sweden or in the UK, most likely the UK. We have another tournament that's a bit smaller called Schism 3 in the UK, just like a week before the Phoenix Blue. Then, I forgot. There's actually one new tournament, I think. I've never heard of it before, the earlier ones, if they existed at all. And it's a tournament in the UK that's supposed to become super big. I don't know exactly when it is. I have it as my banner on Twitter because I confirmed I'm attending. It's Region 2019, which is probably gonna be like a super big tournament with how much energy and marketing is going into it. But I don't know anything about its history, and that's why I don't think we're going to get another Air, because Air had history. It had a ton of engaged players who were like, this is the best thing on the planet, and word of mouth is the best way to promote a tournament. So either we get like a new Valhalla, because people on the second one is like, oh, this is the best thing in the universe, and then we get Valhalla 3 and 400, 500 entrants, or we don't get anything like that. I don't think a new tournament is going to take the spot.
How you kind of briefly alluded to this before, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on sort of the new game, like Ultimate, its impact on EU Smash, and do you think there'll be a good amount of spillover, like a potential growth for a new pool of players coming from it within Europe, or do you not see that as likely?
Okay, so rationally, I think it's likely. I think it's likely that we'll get a lot of new players. I don't think it's going to be nearly the same amount as in Smash 4 and the documentary. Those two combined gave a lot of new blood into the scene. I don't think it's going to be nearly that effect. I think the new documentary by Samox that was
Metagame.
Metagame. If Metagame becomes the phenomenon that the last documentary became, if it becomes something even bigger, then yes, I think we'll have a lot of bleed over just the same way we had last time. Emotionally, I don't really think so. From what I've talked to people and observed, it seems like even the Melee players are really interested in Ultimate, and we have the interest in Melee is kind of on the back burner at the moment. There's a ton of people going like, oh, I'm just playing Ultimate this week and this month and this half a year, I'm not touching Melee that much. So I don't, if nothing happens, if we don't get metagame, for example, if no outside factors contribute, it's not going to be nearly as big as Smash 4. That had a really positive impact on us, but I don't see that happening again. Especially now with, it doesn't matter how much like Armada, Leffen prove it or say it that, oh, you can become good in just a couple of years. I think people are mostly in the idea that, oh, you need 10 years to become something in Europe. You need to invest so much time. And I don't think people are as ready to jump from a slight, okay, obviously bias, but say someone thinks it's a slightly worse Melee to Melee compared to Smash 4, which was a much worse Melee to Melee.
Much.
Like, don't even call it a Melee. That's how
you spend, okay, are you really gonna spend 4 years to become amazing in Melee when Ultimate is the hottest thing on the fucking planet, and it's not, even Melee players are saying it's about as good or like really fucking good. So I don't see it happening emotionally, but I think just statistics with it's gonna even out, even if less percentage of people go from Ultimate to Melee than from Smash 4 to Melee, because of how much bigger the game is. We're gonna get a lot of bleed over anyways.
So I wanted to sort of like follow up on this question. The reason I'm asking you is I think it's interesting to look at Ultimate's impact on the scene as a whole, but I wanted to ask you specifically, like within the European Smash context, whether you think it'll be any different, or if you thought there were any different factors in Europe, given that two of the biggest Ultimate like content creators and active streamers are Armada and Leffen, who have this backing in Melee. So do you think sort of Ultimate's impact on in America, there is such an established like for other countries to catch up to the US in Melee, I find is like very difficult just because of how resources are distributed. Whereas within Ultimate, the game is still new to a point where like I still think it's unlikely just because of how Smash resources work out. But like it would be more likely for Europe to like basically match NA or be closer to NA within having this established structure around Ultimate and a Smash and having like top level Smash players and with the same amount of opportunities than necessarily in Melee, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that does make a ton of sense. And I think that's going to be a big factor. It depends entirely on the Ultimate scene in Europe. Armada and Leffen both think that Europe is the weakest of the big scenes in Ultimate. Japan is way better. The US is way better. And we're struggling to catch up. And Leffen got a lot of backlash for it. But Gluttony, for example, said that, oh, what am I supposed to do? I free stock all my practice partners. How much better can I become with the competition I have? And I think that's going to continue being a factor for a while. I don't think we're going to catch up that quickly, if at all, because the mentality here seems to be a slightly defeatist already. I hope that changes. What I've seen is like Leffen and Armada have both been pushing, like, no, let's get Europe better. Let's make us a force this time. In Melee, we're secondary to the US. That doesn't have to be the case in Ultimate. We have like so many more players that if we grow the scene properly, if we really try our hardest, then we can catch up. We can become a big playing field in the world. People will have to travel to us, you know.
Because it also does have spillover in Melee because those same kind of talents. Because if it's a bigger scene, it's more prominent, bringing in more players, that's more potential Melee players as well.
And there's a big chance that every Melee tournament is going to run Ultimate. That there's no question about it. Every single European Melee tournament is running Ultimate from this point forward. It makes no sense not to run Ultimate. And there's probably going to be a good chance that Ultimate tournaments are going to run Melee for, not because they really have to, as much as because it's expected the other way around. And that is going to give us a lot of bleed over. I greatly enjoy Ultimate. I think Ultimate is an incredibly fun game, and I will be competing in it. So I hope for it to become a big phenomenon. At the moment, it's the only thing I can play online because I use my phone's internet, my 4G.
I'm so sorry, dude. You're playing Ultimate online through your...
It's not good. It's not. It's better than nothing, but it's not good. But I mean, like, what? I can't really train Melee because of no internet. So I'll take what I can, and hopefully we can grow the scene in Ultimate and get big bleed over from that scene and become a big playing field in the world. Some major players. I don't want like 4. What do we have in Smash 4? I think we had like Mr. R.
Mr. R, I study.
And Mr. R was the first guy I thought of.
He was on there once. Isn't he like the only one? Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
For a little bit, people believed iStudying was going to be like the next big thing, but he kind of fizzled out pretty quickly after he got big.
Yeah, he's taking it seriously in Ultimate too. There was a bit of drama with Leffen there. You were going to say something?
No, I was just laughing.
I
knew what you were talking about, and Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard not to have drama with Leffen. As much as I love Leffen.
Yeah, I live in the same region as Stefan, but he's kind of he's hard to approach. But every interaction I have with him, even though he's harsh and he's rude in a lot of ways, he's the most honest person you'll ever meet, which is very refreshing. Like if he thinks I suck, he won't sugarcoat it at all. He'll be like, "You are fucking awful. Please get better." Um, and that's nice. You see these people who has the mentality to be brutally honest. That's a term that I see thrown around a lot, and usually that just means more focus on the brutality than the honesty. But Leffen is the one person who manages to focus on the honesty while still being the most brutal person to talk to. I love that dude. I love him so much.
You're preaching to the choir. I'm a huge fan of his complaints because I feel like there's a lot of Melee players who complain. Good. His complaints have so much weight to them. He complained for themselves. He complains for the community. Still remember when Mango saw the GTX seating? He's like, Leffen,
get on this.
About it. Get on this, Leff.
It's so true, though. I love it.
There is a lot of stuff that he calls out that I feel like off some people who are not like some people who are not entirely in the scene. They might think of him as like kind of harsh and kind of mean. I do think it galvanizes some of the community members to really make sure that they better. Like players, of course, I think that's something he's talked about. I think having seeding be better. I know that he's like really talked about some Dragon Ball Fighters events when he was playing the game. It's just like it's really I don't know if I want to say helpful. For some of the right reasons.
Yeah.
So slightly different, slightly sidetrack. Pip, is there anyone else that you want to talk about in the Stockholm scene? Like any fun rivalries that you have, or fun or other like kind of? I know Dady's another player from Stockholm that I think like we were speaking about promising EU players from before. I think Dady is really good and has a pretty like solid ceiling.
Dady has always been my biggest rival in Stockholm.
Yeah, that's why I brought
him up. Stat-wise, I think he's been dominating me since I started playing. I think like a month after I started playing, I money matched him in a best of 7, I think. And that set is on YouTube, and I keep going back to watching it because oh my god, I'm having so much fun getting beat up by CC down smash. That's basically all he did back then. He had recently switched main from Luigi. He played Luigi year 1 and then switched to Samus. And he's just continued being number 1 after Leffen for basically the entire duration. Just like the past year, I caught up, I want to say, and I think I have like a positive record on him in the last season. But it's very close, and historically he has a way better record versus like out of region players, obviously. So I think he'll keep being a big threat. However, I don't have any confirmed information about this, but he's taking a bit easy with Melee at the moment to focus on Ultimate, like getting good there so he can be part of the big scene there, you know, be some of the top players there. So he said to me that he made a mistake picking Samus. He should have picked one of the best characters. So now he jumped on the first bandwagon he could, and as soon as he saw that like 2 top player tier lists put Inkling as number 1, he's like, I am playing Inkling, and Inkling only. And then he's sat at home practicing Inkling for like the entire duration since then. So he's taking it pretty seriously. He's tryharding, and I find that really interesting because that was kind of what I did in Melee when I tried to catch up. I was like, which character is the best? Oh, it's Fox. Fucking pick Fox. Just focus all your attention there. And I think he'll become. I think that'll carry over. I noticed myself that I play melee better after playing Ultimate. So I think he'll keep becoming a threat, but I think he'll take it easy for like a month, maybe half a year or something, and then he'll bounce back and continue playing. I think me, him, and another old school legend called Pepito, and some other Stockholm players are trying our absolute best to become part of the Ultimate scene, the power rankings there, and trying to take over those. And that's my own goal right now when I don't have internet. I can't really content create at all, can't stream, can't make videos, so gotta fucking get that power ranking. Gotta place top 10 in the first power ranking in Ultimate. That's the goal.
That's cool, man. Who do you main in Ultimate again? I like Peach or something.
Yeah, I main Peach, and my secondary at the moment is Cloud. It's like I switch between Cloud and Yoshi at the moment. I think I finally found like those 3 characters are the ones I want to focus on.
Interesting. So if you had to, sorry, go on.
It's really fun playing Peach in training mode because I keep getting flashbacks to when I practiced Fox Tech early on. I'm like, okay, Wave Shine and Captain Falcon, let's get this combo down. And then I'm like, okay,
what a
upper
sad
loops.
Sentence.
What?
I'm sorry, that's a sad sentence. Don't disrespect Melee Fox like that. Melee Fox is so...
What did I say?
I like Ultimate. I'm having a great time with it. You said that. So anything in Ultimate is like Melee Fox? Come on, man.
Yeah, but
come on.
Practicing Peach combos gives me the same feeling as practicing Fox combos. The neutral is way different, and I don't think it's nearly as smooth, and I don't think it's as fun, really. But just like hitting every single thing over and over, I can sit for hours with Peach and just like train the 90% combo she has on the entire cast, and I'll get that in tournament once, and then I'll feel just as good as the first time I see her to death somewhere with Fox,
All right.
So Pip, you have a crystal ball, right? And you can see into 2 different futures. The first one is that at the end of 2019, you're at the big house 9 or whatever.
8.
And you're at the big house 9. That's this year.
Okay.
So you're at the big house 9, and you can see into 2 different futures. And in one of them, you defeat Zane with Fox. Okay, for some reason, somehow, and just stick with me over here.
Yeah, no problem. I'll do that free.
So 9 months.
Yes, Dash is back.
But in the other crystal ball, you defeat like MK Leo or something with Peach and like Peach Ike or something. Which one do you choose as your ideal future? You can only have one.
That's a way more difficult question than it deserves to be. Well, okay. Assuming Ultimate doesn't get patched at all, I think I'll actually choose Ultimate.
Damn.
Really?
Because it's kind of a reset. Going from where I am now to Zane feels like less of a journey than going from where I am now in Ultimate to MK Leo. And doing that would feel more impressive and a bigger leap. It's also playing Ultimate at that level from where I am now would require me to learn so much more neutral games, so much more matchups, and generally like the mental aspect a lot more. While in Melee, I think I would have to focus a lot more on the physical aspect, getting every combo, like the consistency there, and doing that is marginally less fun now than trying again in the mental state, because like I'm a labber really, so I have a lot of information about Melee matchups, and I don't feel like I'm afraid in any one of them. I don't feel like there's stuff I don't know about. When I look at Ultimate, I go, what the fuck does that character do? How do I play around this character? And that's so interesting to me. I love that. So I'll choose MK Leo, actually.
All right.
Sorry for betraying you.
It's okay.
No, that's okay.
You didn't just to betray us, you betrayed all of Melee, but
that's a good title.
That's the path you chose.
from Melee Stats.
If I'm known for anything in my life, I want to be known as Pipsqueak the Betrayer.
Benedict Pipsqueak, damn.
There's a certain Pipsqueak was made as a tag as like a satire tag. A Pipsqueak is like the new guy. He's a lot laughing stock. You don't take him seriously at all. So having like a really really cool secondary title after Pipsqueak, that's the end game. Give me like Pipsqueak the Betrayer, Pipsqueak the God Slayer, Pipsqueak the
the traitor, Pipsqueak.
I want something mighty.
Yeah, very Elder Scrollsy. Pipsqueak the traitor. That's funny. All right, man. I think that actually there is one question I want to ask you. How long have you been playing Melee for? You're like one of the newer sort of like rising like younger stars in Europe. So when did you start?
I started 2 days ago, 3 years ago.
Wow.
I started on the 9th, and I went to my first tournament the 16th of January. I found the game at school. Like I had a friend who found NetPlay, and he's like, "Oh my god, you can download Dolphin and play Melee." And then we played it at school for like 5 or 6 days. And he's like, "There's a tournament nearby. Let's go to the tournament." And we all went, and then they never came back, and I went every week. So I went every week for like a year or something. And yeah, I've only played for 3 years, basically.
That's crazy,
nice.
Man.
Pretty impressive.
I'm like self-conscious. I've been in the scene for like 6 pretty soon.
Well, at the moment, I'm struggling a lot with expectations in that my life for a large portion of my time has been Melee, and I streamed basically all the time I felt healthy enough to do it. In 2015, I experienced burnout. I didn't realize it back then, so I continued working really hard for another year, and then I basically walked into a wall again. So I've been struggling a lot with expectations on my physical state. I don't have that much energy at all. So I took like half a year off from school and focused on Melee because it was the most fun thing for me, and I wanted something refreshing, And then now I do the complete reversal. I start school again, and I have no internet. So all of my expectations, my performance, everything, all my goals have been Melee related or Smash related, streaming related. Every single hobby interest I've had is suddenly off the table. So it's expectations and stuff like that. That's what I'm struggling with right now. I expected to place way worse at Valhalla because of this, but now I'm like, what now? I have another tournament in a month, and I don't really feel like practicing if I can only play once every 2 weeks. Like I used to play every day. So that's why I'm focusing on Ultimate, because it's my last bastion. But hopefully everything goes back. I start to find my footing again, and I'll rise even more. I want to be top 100 now. I want to be top 50 next year, and then I want to be top 10 in 3 years. So it's like, how am I going to hit those goals? That's where I'm at right now. I'm reconsidering, reframing everything around my current life situation and finding the best ways to achieve those goals. And even though I talk about Ultimate and I'm really positive towards it, my goals are primarily Melee focused. The reason I chose MK Leo is not because I would value that win more. I would value the journey there more, if you get me.
Yeah. Well, man, those are tough goals, but I wish you the best of luck, and that's pretty awesome that you're setting a pretty high bar.
I've always compared myself to the absolute best in everything I do, which is both a struggle and a point of pride. Like I started playing Melee, and I lived in the same region as Leffen, and I immediately set Leffen as my goal. I was like, okay, I'm gonna beat Leffen. That's goal number one. That's where I'm gonna start.
That's a tough goal. That's a That's a
hard goal.
admirable
hard
goal, especially in the Fox Ditto.
I've played him so many times in the Fox Ditto. It's actually really funny because I play as other characters, and I played at our models place at a boot camp with him. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, I'm doing pretty well. This is I'm starting to figure him out. I can take stocks, I can take games sometimes, and I feel pretty confident when you can take like a couple games from them. That's when you're starting to get into the range, But every single tournament set we've had, he's fucking four-stocked me, and it's so annoying. At Valhalla 1, I think I started laughing maniacally on stage when he four-stocked me in under a minute, and then we start game 2 and he three-stocks me in under a minute. And then the last game I take 2 stocks from bullshit, and I'm like, yes! And I don't remember exactly which tournament, but oh no, Air 5. Yeah, we played at Air 5, and it was basically just as bad. So there's a long way to go, but I'll get there.
All right. Well, hopefully
also,
you're able to. Sorry. Before we end, yes.
Before we end, I was just about to say, before I interrupted you, which is very, very ironic with what I'm about to say, sorry for taking so much space. And I feel like over 50% of this podcast has been me talking.
Oh, you were great.
Yeah, you're great. You're the
guest of honor.
That's a 2 Americans and a Canadian to be able to talk about European Melee like this.
No, but I also wanted to practice hosting a podcast because that was one of my big goals when I get internet back, that I'm going to host a EU-centric podcast. I have a lot of things planned for that, but
that'd be great. I feel like a lot of Melee has EU as kind of a blind spot, and I think someone
I want to be that. I want to.
I think you can fill that spot in right there.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I'm a bit sad that I spent so much time talking, because this is not how I want to run my own podcast. I don't want to spend I invite 3 guests. I'm like, hello, Frenzy, hello, Present, hello, Nikki. Today, this podcast is about me, you, me.
Funny.
No, you're great. This is why you're the guest. You got a lot to say.
Fair enough.
It's been very fun.
I'm so happy that the internet hasn't bugged out more than it has. There's been some parts where I've had to piece together sentences where it's like, oh, so it's starting to cut out. So I only hear the first half of something, and I try to get the context. So I hope I haven't screwed up too hard when that's happened.
No,
and I don't. Have you guys heard me cut out?
No. I actually haven't.
Oh, for the most part, not. I think it should end up pretty good on the recording.
Okay, good. Yes. Success. I think I'll go to sleep now. It's
on that note.
Yeah, go to.
It's 5 a.m.
I'm about to go to bed now, dude. You gotta hit the hay.
You got a couple hours on us.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. and I have 2 meetings tomorrow.
Oh boy.
So I hope I don't oversleep.
Good luck with that, and good luck with everything in Melee and Ultimate in the coming year. It was really nice to have you on. Thank you. It was really nice to be here. I just want to say, as a quick shout out, buy Edwin's book when it releases.